Hello and welcome back to the very first ScoBuffs broadcast of the year. Oh man, there has been so much going on and I'm very excited for it. What are you most excited for coming up?
So me as a freshman personally, I'm very excited to see Ralphie run tomorrow. It's going to be a very cool experience.
You know, I think that is the newest Ralphie. I remember her very first run my sophomore year. I think that was like 2-3 years ago.
Oh my gosh, you're such an old head.
We'll kick this right off as Malaina went down to Fort Worth last Saturday for the game against TCU. She has something for us. Malaina, take it away.
Reporting to you live from Amon G. Carter Stadium here in Fort Worth, Texas, and I am happy to announce we have officially entered the prime time era. This afternoon, Colorado Buffaloes took on the number 17 TCU Horned Frogs and were able to mark their first win down in the books, 45-42. This opening game was unlike any other. Although Colorado has been in the limelight for the last 9 months, a majority has been betting against them. CU came out and set the bar higher than they previously thought. Not only did Colorado hit the scoreboard first, they held a lead for a majority of the game. The most action-packed period came during the third quarter. During these 15 minutes, a back-and-forth pace was set between the Buffs and the Frogs. For every touchdown CU had, TCU responded quicker. TCU's final drive was the game changer. Chandler Morris's pass came a few inches too short of the yard marker and the ball was turned over to the Buffs, who ran out the remainder. If the play had met the marker, TCU would have been within field goal range. Colorado's roster proved themselves worth the hype, but 3 players took it to the next level. QB Shedeur Sanders didn't hold back. Sanders showed everyone how quick he could be on his feet and the power he holds in his throw. Sanders ended the game with 510 yards, going 38 for 47, which is an 81% completion. The next player was one of the most highly anticipated, and that was Travis Hunter. By halftime, Hunter had played on 60 snaps on both sides of the ball, and the dual threat player ended with 119 yards and a 69% completion rate. And that's not the last of them. Freshman Dylan Edwards made his debut today, and he showed out. Edwards had 3 receiving touchdowns and 1 running, marking 4, which is the most out of the Buffs. The running back ended with 159 yards. The Buffs made history by snapping a 17-game losing streak against top 20 ranked opponents. Colorado looks forward to September 9th when they will have their home opener against the Nebraska Huskers. Folsom Field will be celebrating its 100th year anniversary, and kickoff will be at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can watch the game on Fox's Big Noon Kickoff. I'm Malaina Humphreys, ScoBuff Sports.
This week's college football poll came out on Tuesday, and with the Buffs' big win over TCU, it landed them a top 25 spot. The Buffs landed at number 22 in this week's poll. It's the program's first appearance in the AP poll since 2020. That was a number 21 spot and only lasted a week before Colorado lost 2 straight to end the season. The Buffs were ranked for two weeks in 2018 and 9 straight weeks to end the season in 2016. Before that, the Buffs haven't been ranked since 2005. Meanwhile, previously ranked TCU fell out of the top 25, as in a de facto 29 if you count others receiving votes. Topping this week's AP poll are, in order, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Florida State, and Ohio State. The Buffaloes are weeks away from facing number 6 USC in Boulder, and just before that, they will travel to take on number 13 Oregon.
Headlining the Pac-12 Players of the Week was the CU Buffs football team, with quarterback Shedeur Sanders and cornerback Travis Hunter taking home the offensive and defensive Players of the Week. Freshman running back Dylan Edwards would earn the Freshman Player of the Week title after his impressive debut, becoming only the 4th player in 27 years to score 4 touchdowns in their debut, as well as the 2nd Colorado player to earn the title since it was created in 2019. Both Edwards and Sanders have already broken a combined 14 records after their first game.
Travis Hunter had a primetime performance on Saturday against the TCU Horned Frogs. Hunter starred on both sides of the ball for the Buffaloes, playing 110 snaps as both a corner and a wide receiver. When asked about Hunter's snap count and how he able to maintain such a play style, Coach Prime simply responded with, "He is him." Hunter finished the day with 1 interception, 119 receiving yards, and 11 receptions. Hunter's impressive performance did more than just draw the eyes of some celebrities. The two-way star also jumped in the Heisman Trophy race. His odds changed from plus 30,000 to plus 2,000 in just a few hours. The last Buffalo to win the Heisman was Rashaan Salaam in 1994.
Jackson State transfer quarterback Shedeur Sanders shattered the Colorado Buffalo school record in passing yards last Saturday against the TCU Horned Frogs, playing a remarkable role in the upset with an astounding 510 yards. Sanders provides a strong case as he finishes the matchup, completing 38 of his 47 attempts, setting a high bar for the nation, which ties the national season high for Week 1. Former quarterback Tyler Hansen held the previous record with 474 yards against California in 2011. Following that with the quarterback Mike Mashotti in 1999 with a nonetheless impressive 465 yards facing San Jose State. Sanders notes that he has taken down all red-colored merchandise from his website for the Nebraska week. So expect another impressive performance from the junior quarterback. It's clear that Shedeur is leading the Buffs and bringing his swag, but let's take a look at some of the help he has.
Buffs' true freshman running back Dylan Edwards burst onto the scene Saturday with a historic 4-touchdown performance against the Horned Frogs. Just a few months after celebrating his high school prom, Edwards shocked the football world with a feat not seen in over 20 years. He totaled 3 receiving touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, and over 150 yards of total offense. Edwards was the one true freshman in Colorado to open up a season since Kent Call did it in 1991, and the 4th ever nationally to score 4 touchdowns in a debut. Edwards looks to prove that he is more than just a one-game wonder this weekend against Nebraska.
Dylan Edwards, Travis Hunter, Xavier Weaver, and Jimmie Horn Jr. all had over 100 receiving yards in Fort Worth, putting them in the books for the first time in school history. With 4 receivers in one game, all 4 of these wideouts had standout plays, helping the Buffs score and get into scoring position. We've talked about Travis and Edwards' stellar performances, both earning a Pac-12 award. Jimmie Horn and Xavier Weaver both had themselves a game. The two were teammates back at South Florida and were utilities there, but are proving they are stars. There is more to come from this Colorado receiving corps, as it's just the beginning of the season.
And now that brings us to the very first trivia question of the year. With the explosive offensive performance last weekend, we wanted to know, when was the last time the Colorado Buffaloes scored more than 45 points in a single game? Stay tuned for the answer later on in the show. I don't even know if it was in my lifetime.
Coming into his new home, Coach Deion Sanders knew he needed to have a revamped roster if he was going to have a chance. In his introductory press conference, Sanders stated he was bringing his Louis with him. But that might have been an understatement. Colorado was the hottest team in the nation during the offseason, and with a spectacle as big as a Pro Football Hall of Famer leading the way, the Buffaloes become an entirely new team. Coach Prime brought in over 50 new players, including his son, Shedeur Sanders.
Despite the large-scale rebuild, there are still players who experienced the 1-11 season on the squad this year. Coach Sanders only ended up keeping 9 players on scholarship from last year's team, most notably Marvin Ham II, who had 10 tackles, offensive tackle Gerald Christian Linchenhan, who was a reliable starter on the offensive line, and safety Trevor Woods, who added 9 tackles while also forcing a fumble and grabbing an interception. They remain large-scale producers on Coach Sanders' new roster.
And my co-host here did not get to see that new roster in person in Fort Worth, but he was able to capture some tailgating here in Boulder. Now let's take a look.
What's up? Welcome to Jimmie's Tailgate Takeover. I'm here at Farron Field, the center of the University of Colorado's campus, and they're taking on TCU today. It's been a long day of anticipation, and we are here seeing what the students got going on in the tailgate world. Check it out.
1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a dud, but we're gonna find some stuff. It's a 10 a.m. kickoff. Some people might be in bed still. It was a late night for a lot of CU fans. Not me though. Couldn't be me.
Listen to you on this shit when you never could do what I did. Ahead of the curve. For me to put pen down the paper, you gotta.
Well, that didn't work out. So we are gonna make our way to the hill and see if there's anything going on there. We'll see. I don't know. Check out the roof. It's like a Rolls Royce.
It should be.
All right, so y'all got a tailgate or something? Where y'all going?
Everywhere.
What kind of tailgate is this? What's going on here? We have successfully made it to the hill at the University of Colorado here. This is a little bit more of the vibe. Where am I at right now? Where am I at right now? It's game day. It's game day. If you were to talk to TCU right now, what would you say to TCU? Oh, prime time's coming. We're ready. We're going to destroy you. Celsius? It's gonna be a long one. I could use one. Whenever it's game day and you need to wake up at 10 a.m., I always grab a good Celsius peach vibe flavor. It's delicious. It's definitely not terrible for you.
He ain't even sponsored. Yes, go! Yeah, sure.
Hey, what do we think about TCU right now? What do you think about
TCU! It's the best day to be on, Rob! Go!
Let's f***ing go!
Trojan, my baby deep like the ocean. Baby, I see you.
I'm here with, what's your name, man? Colby. Where are we at right now? Find out Theta. We're here, we're tailgating. We finally found a spot. TCU game today. What are we thinking about TCU? I think we're gonna whoop some. How's that 10 a.m. kickoff? Are you doing all right? Yeah, we woke up at 7:15, got the music going. We're ready to go. Take a little tour. All right. So we got the LED screen. We're gonna have the game going up here. We're gonna be tossing some die in this room right here. Got some pool running in here when you need a break from the sun. Also got this screen going up here with the game. And if anyone needs any food or snacks, we got the kitchen. That's pretty much the crib. You put any lines on this?
I did not gamble.
I'm trying to save all my money, but
There's a few kids that have put some money on it. But if you were to gamble, what would you do? What you run in?
TCU. Get him out of here! Get him out of here! Go! Oh, where y'all got a whole calorie? Hey, honestly though. Shador Sanders, what do we think?
Go! Heisman right there, baby!
So this is my executive producer here, Ryan.
Yeah, we posted up with the youngest executive producer in the game, holding everybody right now. But you know what? We're making plays, we're making moves. We're out here on game day. This is what it is.
We live together.
We're in Boulder, Colorado, baby. We're in Dion's territory. Let's go! Let's go, Buffs, baby! Let's go, Buffs! Let's go, Buffs!
Boulder's had a very good vibe today. It started off a little slow up on campus, but we've managed to find some stuff going on the hill.
We're back.
Yeah, so we're gonna hop up into Peckish here, tune on the game. It's about to have kickoff. Let's go, Buffs. Check this out. It's game day, baby. It's game day.
Y'all game ready or what? Let's go Bucks, not me. I do not miss.
Folsom Field is joining the Century Club in 2023 as it marks the 100th season since the Buffs first called it home. Before Folsom Field, Colorado's football team played on Gamble Field, which is also home to the baseball and track and field team. Gamble Field also only held around 8,000 people, and after an undefeated Colorado football season, they needed an upgrade, and Folsom Field was born. The stadium originally held 26,000 fans, but after 100 years of upgrades, it now holds over 50,000. It has been host to not only Buffs football, but concerts featuring some of the biggest names in music, such as the Rolling Stones, Van Halen, and the Grateful Dead. It's seen a national championship team, a Heisman Trophy winner, and hopefully a Colorado win on Saturday.
We had Malaina Humphreys, Jared Miller, and Oliver Hayes sit down and talk about tomorrow's game. Now, let's take a look.
All right, let's get into it. We're going to get right into the nitty-gritty. What's going to be Colorado's keys to the game? What are they going to need to do?
I mean, obviously offense. We don't really have to worry about that, I don't think. Last weekend they were clicking on all cylinders, and it seems like the TCU defense, even though they gave up 42 points compared to Nebraska's 13 points to Minnesota. I don't know. TCU scares me a little bit more. Nebraska, they don't really jump out at me as far as a defense, especially when you look at Minnesota's offense, and there's no names that stood out. There was nothing that was like, I don't know. It was more Minnesota being bad than Nebraska being good, in my eyes. That's what it seemed. Maybe I'm a little biased, but yeah. So that's my opinion on offense. I think the real big thing would just to be about how Colorado can stop the run. Obviously, Nebraska runs the ball a lot. Jeff Sims, the quarterback, runs the ball a lot. Nebraska has a few running backs, Urban and Grant, that split reps, and they ran 16 times last week. So obviously a lot of rushing attempts, the ball will be on the ground a lot for Nebraska's offense, and obviously that was kind of a weak point last week. So.
Yeah, well, and I'm really going to build off that because something that Colorado's going to need to do is spy the quarterback. So obviously we know Nebraska in general very much has a history of running quarterbacks, and we got to see a little look into it with Jeff Sims, especially against Minnesota. He had the most rushing yards on the entire team, and that was 91 yards. The next closest player was Gabe Urban Jr., and he had only 55. But with that being said, Colorado's is going to have to put him in a very uncomfortable position. So they're going to have to make him want to pass the ball. They're going to make him have to pass the ball. And with that being said, they can put up a four-man front, and putting up that four-man front, they're going to be able to cover those gaps so that he's not going to have somewhere to run through. So I think if Colorado's going to be able to put up that four-man front and cover those gaps, he's not going to have any place to run. He's going to be forced to throw the ball. And when he threw the ball, he threw 3 picks, 3 interceptions. And, we've seen what Travis Hunter could do. So I think that's going to be a really big deal if we can force him into that uncomfortable position again.
Yeah, I think the biggest key to this game for Colorado is their defensive line. Obviously, the rushing game did tear them apart a little bit last week. Amani Bailey had a couple big runs, and Trey Sanders kind of dominated at the goal line. But I think if you can, and I guess Colorado's defensive line, no pressure on the quarterback really, no sacks. They did have some big rushes at the end to cause Chandler Morris to throw the ball away, and a short gain on 4th down that ended up winning the game. But that defensive line probably needs to be a little more dominant against this Nebraska team in order to make a big difference on Jeff Sims. You saw last week against Minnesota. Minnesota's defensive line kind of in that second half really took over the game. They were tripping him up before he could leave the pocket, sacking him, and that's what really changed the game. Their offense wasn't playing the best, but the defense kind of kept them in it and contained Jeff Sims in that second half.
After Saturday's performance against TCU, the football team has jumped from a 10-point underdog to a 3-point favorite in the upcoming showdown against Nebraska. This also comes after Nebraska lost 13-10 on a buzzer-beating field goal after blowing the lead against Minnesota. Sanders and Matt Rule are both facing challenges of coaching new teams this year, and the Buffs and Huskers matchup this Saturday is going to be the ultimate proving point for each coach. The rivalry between these two teams has lasted nearly a century, and it was Colorado who took wins in their last 2 matchups back in 2019 and 2018.
As the Buffs are set to take on Nebraska, tomorrow we take a look back on the rivalry tension built up throughout the years. Nebraska and Colorado have been bitter rivals dating back decades prior to this year. Nebraska head coach Matt Rule appeared to take shots towards Prime and the Buffs. Coach keeps his receipts and did not forget about this call-out, stating Tuesday morning during his weekly press conference,
Rivalries are rivalries. There's some more severe than others. I think everywhere you go coach, from high school on up or from youth league on up, you're going to have rivalries. And just learning the dynamics of the different rivalries I like it. It's delightful. So I've learned the severity, the serious nature of this rivalry, and I'm embracing it 100%. This is personal. That's the message of the week. This is personal.
As the tension continues to build, we will have to see which coach is able to back up their talk.
Over 50,000 people will have the chance to see this rivalry go down in real time. Thousands of others are still struggling to get a ticket to see their Buffs. ScoBuff Sports' Malaina Humphreys investigated the new ticketing system and how it negatively impacted students.
Colorado football is receiving more attention now than they have in the last decade alone. Between the pent-up excitement and the win that Deion Sanders just brought back to Boulder, fans can't wait to see their Buffs take on the biggest rival at the home opener this weekend. Unfortunately for some students, the $185 sports pass doesn't guarantee a ticket to the home opener or any other game.
By the time I got done and got through, it said there's no tickets available.
Folsom Field has expanded their student section to 12,000 seats, accommodating for the excitement surrounding Coach Prime. But as the new ticket claim process was introduced, it was only a hint of what was to come. In emails sent to ScoBuff Sports months ago, schools officials said the new claim process was for security purposes. But as the first claim window came to a close Sunday afternoon, hundreds of students with passes were left empty-handed.
A lot of my friends were not able to get tickets. And the issue now is, it used to be very easy to get tickets from like the ticket exchange group chats. But now people are selling like a ticket for like $200, $300.
Although hundreds were left without a chance to see their Buffaloes, many were not even given an opportunity at all. Despite school officials saying there would be a seniority selection based off of previous seasons, a majority of returning fans were left disappointed after the first claim window July 11th.
You just sit in the queue for like hours hoping that your name gets picked. Like it's a waiting game, you don't really know if you're gonna get it or not, and unfortunately I didn't get it this year.
In an attempt to even the playing field for incoming students, a second window was implemented just a few weeks later. Per school officials, the second window was only meant for incoming freshmen with 3,000 passes set aside. Ultimately, when the window opened, the whole student body had access, giving a second chance to some and depriving others.
Sitting in the queue, and I finally got to the screen of the little man walking, as everyone likes to say, and I finally got in, and it automatically logged me out of the session.
Even the students who did claim tickets and can attend the Nebraska game were left with a stipulation. If your claim ticket is not scanned at the gate, you will not get a chance to enter the claim for the next game.
It's frustrating.
And there's no way to put your claim ticket back into the pool, meaning if something unforeseen occurs, a student could miss out on 2 games they already paid for, and that's if they were even lucky enough to score the pass. The university provided a contact email if you cannot be in attendance at the game, but your request must be received 24 hours prior to kickoff. This year, students will also be required to show a Buff 1 upon entry with their ticket per CU's website. The school has not responded to our follow-up request regarding how many student passes were sold. Malaina Humphreys, ScoBuff Sports.
Go Buffs!
Go Buffs! Thank you.
Football is not the only sport on campus right now. The soccer team is off to a hot start this season. We had one of our members at the game last Sunday. Take it away, Dylan.
Hi, I'm Dylan Nation here for ScoBuff Sports at Prentice Field after the Colorado-Purdue soccer game. The Buffs won comfortably by a margin of 3-0. In the first half of the game, Maya Gonzalez scored her first goal of the season, followed by another goal by Faith Leba. There was a lightning delay in halftime, but in the second half, the Buffs continued to play well, as Faith Leba's sister, Hope Leba, made another goal for the Buffs. The next game is here against Colgate on September the 10th. For Skill Buff Sports, I am Dylan Nation.
The Colorado soccer team has gotten off to an extraordinary start to their season. They are currently 6-1 and have won 5 games in a row. In their last 5 games, they hold a point differential of over their opponents of 11-1, and across the entire season hold a differential of 14-2. It started off with a home game against Northern Colorado on August 17th. The Buffs scored 3 goals in the season-opening win versus the Bears. The next game against Marquette was their first loss of the season, but that began a hot streak, and that has lasted till this day. This included a ranked win over Michigan State, a comeback win over NC State, and a 3-0 win over Purdue. Later that week, the Buffs played their very first road game against New Mexico, which resulted in a 2-0 win for CU to extend their winning streak to 5. Colorado is currently preparing to come back home and take on Colgate this Sunday.
Volleyball has also been hitting the court to start the semester. We had Patrick Dawson at the CU Event Center last Saturday night. Take a look.
What's up, Buffs fans? Patrick Dawson reporting from the CU Event Center. Your Buffs volleyball team just performed incredibly. They played an outstanding match versus Charlotte to win the Colorado Classic and swept it 3-0. This is the first time since 1993 that your Buffs volleyball team has swept 5 consecutive matches. It was absolutely incredible. The third set was the most intense. Some very intense rallies that if you told me they lasted for hours, I would have believed you. It was very intense. We won it off of a challenge. It was such an intense ending to the match. The fans were going wild. The Buffs fans were out here in full support. It was incredible. Once again, we played an amazing match. We swept it 3-0 as Colorado takes the Colorado Classic. This is Patrick Dawson reporting from the CU Event Center for Skill Buff Sports.
The Buffs volleyball team continued their dominant start to the season with a 3-0 win over Charlotte this past Saturday. The team won without dropping a set, marking a 5-game win streak, sweeping all 5, the first time in college history since 1993. The game marked the final matchup of the Colorado Classic against Xavier, Northern Colorado, and Charlotte, all 3 of which Colorado would sweep 3-0. With a huge point margin, CU would take home the Colorado Classic title. Colorado will move on to Wichita State Invitational away in Wichita this weekend, as they look to keep their 5-game streak going against Kansas right now and Wichita State tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Staying on the hardwood, Colorado's Tristan Da Silva was awarded the Blue Ribbon Yearbook Preseason All-American honors this past Tuesday. The senior forward was a 4th-team selection, making him one of only 3 Pac-12 players to make a team. The selection comes after a breakout campaign in 2023. The German product led the Buffs in scoring, pouring on almost 16 points a game during his All-Pac-12 campaign.
Buff fan here.
Me! That guy.
School Buff!
Go Buffs, baby! We're all about the Buffs!
School Buff!
They can't contain us. We're the best. We can't be stopped.
Hi, my name is Joe Jarrell, and I'll make this edition of Rapid Fire as fast as Dylan Edwards' breakaway speed. The men's golf team will be teeing off their season today at the Maui Gym Intercollegiate in Scottsdale, Arizona, and will be competing there all weekend. If you haven't heard already, it's rivalry week. Colorado will be hosting Nebraska here in Boulder at 10 a.m. Mountain Time tomorrow morning. At 6 p.m. tomorrow evening, the volleyball team will be facing off in Kansas against Wichita State in their second match of the Wichita State Invitational. And to close things out, the women's soccer team is looking to continue their hot start at Print Up Field. When Colgate comes to town, that game will take place on Sunday at noon. That's all we have for this week's edition of Rapid Fire. I'm Joe Jarrell. Back to you guys at the desk.
Now it's time to reveal our play of the week. Just as a reminder, our candidates are Travis Hunter's unbelievable interception against TCU, Amaya Gonzaga's banger of a goal against Purdue, Dylan Edwards' 75-yard mad dash to the end zone against the Horned Frogs, and Sydney Jordan's empathetic spike against Charlotte. Drum roll, please. And the winner is Receiving over 53% of the vote, Travis Hunter. Just an absolutely insane feat of intelligent athleticism by the two-way phenomenon.
Unbelievable!
Take one more look at the snag that saved both the TCU touchdown and potentially the game itself. He is truly, as Coach Prime put it.
Are you kidding me right now?
Him.
That was wide open from the booth. 100 times out of 100, I see that action from up here. That's a...
You know, actually, I could also do that. I actually did. The cameras were just not.
I'm sure.
Over the summer, Colorado announced their move to the Big 12, and here we have Raegan, Knobbe, and Patrick Dawson.
Hello everyone and welcome to Buff Banter. I'm Raegan Knobbe alongside Patrick Dawson, and today's topic is Colorado's move to the Big 12. Colorado announced their move to the Big 12 on Thursday, July 27th, alongside the University of Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah.
Oklahoma and Texas kicked off the cross-country realignment after announcing their departure from the Big 12 and their move into the SEC in the summer of 2021. This move becomes effective in 2024. Additionally, UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington all also announced that they're moving to the Big 10.
The Pac-12 is effectively disbanded after all but two teams, Washington State and Oregon State, will leave by 2024. Now, Patrick, there's nothing any of us can do about this unprecedented realignment, but we can discuss our own feelings about CU's move to the Big 12.
Right, Raegan. And I think there's some potential drawbacks to this move, especially considering the effects that drastic changes to the geographical schedule can have on smaller varsity sports with lesser budgets than a sport like football or basketball. In my own personal experience, I've witnessed smaller Division I sports teams traveling on commercial airlines, sitting in the back of the plane, dealing with layovers, baggage claim, and other hassles related to commercial traveling. These are issues that larger sports teams such as football or basketball don't have to deal with, as they have private travel, fluid schedules, and more accommodations to consolidate the new geographical schedule. For example, Colorado now has to face off against West Virginia on the east side of the country. Smaller sports student athletes now have to include a hefty and tedious travel schedule to play games in West Virginia, while also considering classes, personal schedules back home, and other things of that nature.
Valid point, Patrick. However, I think you're failing to consider that this is the best possible move CU could have made, considering we won't be in a position like Stanford, who has to travel cross-country to their conference opponents in the ACC. On top of that, we must be aware of how much more revenue CU will generate from joining the Big 12. In fact, former Buffs head football coach Gary Barnett told KAO in Denver, quote, "I don't think they can afford to keep leaving money on the table every year by staying in the Pac-12 conference. That conference is changing. You've got USC and UCLA heading to the Big 10. There's all sorts of pressure for Washington and Oregon to make some sort of similar move. The Pac-12 is sort of just falling down around Colorado right now." Look, he said it. A big part of this move is financial. Currently, CU's football and basketball teams are the only athletic programs on campus that generate more revenue than cost of operations. We need to think about the media rights deal that the Big 12 just extended this past June with ESPN and Fox. In 2022 to 2023 alone, they distributed $440 million. That's $44 million per team. Considering the Pac-12 has no media deal in place, Colorado won't be making as much money as they will with the Big 12. In fact, reports say that Colorado will receive at least $31.8 million per year from the Big 12 starting in 2024. And you and I both know that's more money than CU would ever have made with the Pac-12.
That is a fair assertion. However, the creation of these super conferences, in my opinion, could be counterproductive to our progress that we've been building with, for example, our overhauled football team. With Colorado moving to a bigger conference with bigger and better teams, we could be stunting our own growth and potentially set ourselves up to struggle in the future. Following our departure, 7 teams still remained in the conference, with the possibility of adding smaller teams from other smaller conferences following the Pac-12's alliance with the ACC and the Big 10. Our move kicked off a chain reaction. 5 teams left the conference on the exact same day. Had we stayed, those teams likely would have stayed as well. And one could argue that we had a better chance of being competitive across multiple sports when playing at schools like Arizona State, California, and Stanford in comparison to our new future opponents like Kansas, Kansas State, and Baylor. Now, I'm not doubting the potential of Colorado athletics. However, I do question whether or not we are unnecessarily making our schedules harder than they need to be.
Come on, Patrick. Let's have a little faith. And let's go back to the financial aspect of this and the potential benefits for our athletes at CU through NIL deals. Now, we all know that the big dogs in terms of NIL are mostly big-name athletes in the SEC, but a bigger stage provided by the Big 12, it could put our athletes on the map after going unseen for so long in the Pac-12. In fact, Buffs QB Shedeur Sanders aside, after all, not every college athlete has such a famous father. Our athletes here could really make some good money off of new NIL deals, especially because ESPN Plus will essentially become the Big 12 network, meaning many games will be streamed on TV for viewers to watch. ESPN and Fox will split football and basketball games and widen the number of games that are streamed live. Obviously, more TV time means better opportunity for our athletes to take advantage of their name, image, and likeness and generate more money for themselves. And Patrick, breaking just a few hours ago, according to an ESPN article, Oregon State and Washington State have filed a legal complaint against the Pac-12 seeking an emergency restraining order to protect what the schools see as, quote, imminent and essential threat to the future of the conference.
That's incredible news. None of us expected that to happen, and I think it'll be very interesting to see how that unfolds in the next 12 months before these moves become final. Now, I know we can't agree on everything, but we can agree that this move is monumental for CU's future. And for all those watching, let us know your thoughts on our social media, SBS_CU on both Twitter and Instagram. Now, that's it for Buff Banner. I'm Patrick Dawson. This is Raegan Knobbe. Back to Jimmie and Lacey at the desk.
Our post of the week is from Bleacher Report on Instagram, highlighting Travis Hunter saying that he wasn't tired and he could have played a whole nother game. Check it out.
Travis Hunter playing offense and defense for Colorado. Nah, Jimmy Butler was tired. Me? I wasn't tired. I was ready to go. I could have played a whole nother game the same day, the next hour. I mean, I love football, man. It's the thing I do the most. I wouldn't change anything for it. I just love going out there and playing.
Now it's time for today's trivia answer. We asked you, when was the last time the Colorado Buffaloes scored 45 points in a game? Drum roll, please. The answer is November 7th, 2020 in the COVID season opener. Colorado put up 48 points against the UCLA Bruins. And want to know something that's crazy? It took Colorado 4 games combined last season to reach the 45-point mark. Oh man, how times have changed.
And that is about all we have today for Buff Sports. We look forward to seeing you next week. And remember, you heard it here first. Buffs.